Oh, no.
Welcome, everybody.
Kidding.
Well, Jess, I have to hype you up first.
Right.
So welcome, everybody, with lovely Jess Hickey joining us again. This is her second of 4. I think the last time it was in March, so it's been 3 months since we've seen you. So we're super excited about this topic. And what I love most about working with you and in this SBA realm is the creative process that goes in it, and just kind of hearing how you think about presenting these. And when you had told us you were going to donate 4 sessions, we talked a little bit about what that would look like and what order. I love that Jess was very strategic, and she said, I want to do getting promoted now. And I know that seems odd to do it in the middle of the summer when we're all wanting to kind of just wind down and have some fun and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And she's like, well, it's a process. And it got me thinking, you are absolutely right. Getting promoted is a process. It's not something that you just go in and you say, I want to raise, much like you wouldn't go in and, I'm sorry, I have cats in the background playing. Much like you wouldn't go into a bank and say, I want a mortgage for a home, or you wouldn't just propose to somebody after a couple of dates, or maybe you would, but there's definitely something that just takes time. And so with that, it's about asking the right questions with yourself, with your leaders, thinking about the role that you want and why you want it and what it's going to look like now in a remote world, and in 5 years and in 10 years. And having discussions with your boss beforehand and saying, look, this is where I want to be. This is my goalpost. And I'm going to check in with you every month. These are the goals I'm going to work on. And then I'm going to check back in with you. And I'm going to tell you how I think I did. And then I'd like to hear how you think I did. And if we do that enough, and towards the end of the year, when it comes time for my annual review, I'd like to be considered for this position. And having those conversations of your expectations of them and theirs of yours, considering phantom rules and your bias and who you're going to be working with.
Are you going to give a presentation, Brittany?
So just super excited about it. So Jess, I know we've talked a little bit about your background, but just want to kind of, for anybody who hasn't met you before, Jess started as a secretary. Then she human resources, finance, operations, she's a director. She has literally done it all. And now she does CEO peer-to-peer groups with Vistage. She also has her own company, which if you want to touch on the story of how you came up with the name, I think there's a few people who haven't heard it, and then maybe just take it away and teach us all things tactics.
Well, thanks. And for anybody that was on the last one, a quick curious question. What was your biggest takeaway, and have you done anything with it from What the Finance? You can put it in the chat. You can turn on your camera. I would love to see you if you're feeling comfortable with doing that. It's helpful to see faces, because I can tell if this stuff is landing or not. Or if there's a wrinkled brow, I'm going to stop and say, somebody got a question? But what I am curious about for What the Finance is, what was the biggest takeaway, and what did you do with it? Just quickly. Anybody? I don't know if anyone was on it.
I think Carrie and Gretchen. I'm checking the chat box too.
I actually missed the session, so okay. I have nothing to contribute. I'm sorry.
No worries. One other thing, can everyone see the screen that I'm sharing? Okay, good. So this is, I'll move into, we can answer that question too and talk about it a little later if we need to. This is really about frameworks for getting promoted. And the theme of this entire presentation is be the obvious choice. So I'll talk a lot about that. So the agenda, we're going to do a quick poll, talk a little bit about the internal, why do you want to be promoted? and then insights to getting promoted, and some takeaways that hopefully will resonate for you. So the quick poll is, if I do one of these three things, I will be promoted. And hopefully this poll will work. Ha!
Does that work?
Can't answer it.
Can anybody else?
Nope.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just says choice 1, choice 2, choice 3.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, somebody was able to answer it because somebody selected choice 2. That's-
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, there
Okay.
we go. Now it's
Okay,
working.
I want to- Yeah, okay.
Maybe it just takes time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
All right, so 75% choice 1.
Work hard, keep my head down, hard work will be rewarded. All right, well, I have bad news. It won't. If you hope that you work hard and your work will be rewarded, because you don't, but if you don't say anything, you just keep your head down, chances are no one will notice. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. The other two were really kind of red herrings, buy donuts, people like food, therefore they'll like me. It doesn't have anything to do with getting promoted, it has to do with donuts. And attend all meetings and take notes when you're there. I guarantee, I recommend you take notes, but not for the other group, take notes for yourself. So anyway, thanks for the answers. But the misnomer, or I think you might have seen a couple of years ago that Satya Nadella came out and said, for all the women at Microsoft, if you just work hard, you will be rewarded. And there was an enormous backlash or blowback on that. That's not true. So you're telling me to just wait, is what you're telling me. So that's where that came from. All right, so let's roll into this. When you talk about wanting a promotion, one of the things I encourage people to think about is, why do you want it? Hey, do you want a title? And what does that mean to you? What does the title mean? Are you looking for more money, job security, more autonomy, more control over your tasks, power and influence over others, more involvement in the decision-making? What is it you're really looking for? And we'll talk a little bit in the insights about how does what you're looking for match up to your company's promotional process and philosophy. And so I was talking to somebody earlier today, as a matter of fact, and the title is a really big thing. Now, I am not a title person. I don't care. I don't care what you call me. What I do recognize is that title is important for clients or for other people in the organization to really understand where you fit in the organization, what authority you have, what you can say yes to, what you can say no to. So I get that title is important in a communication way. I can say that when I built a performance management and promotion or career ladder for a company that I worked for, people were adamant that they wanted to be senior X. And it's kind of like, okay, but there's no money involved in that. They're like, I know, but I got to have senior on my title. It's like, okay, it was a thing. And I'm kind of like, oh, okay, don't mean anything to me, but okay. And so everybody wants more money and thinks about job security, but here's one of the things, who doesn't want it? Job security is important. There's a myth though about job security, and no one is irreplaceable. Okay, if you make yourself irreplaceable, there's some real downside to that. So we want to talk about that. So more autonomy and control over tasks and the way that I do my day. I make my own decisions about what I do, when I do it. People are not dictating to me when I need to do that. They're not telling me what to do. More power or influence over others. This is truly a myth. Another myth is that as you go up, you have less and less power, and you need to have more and more influence, because you're going to have influence sideways. You have to have influence down. Certainly there are people you can tell them what to do, but some humans don't react well to that. So it's influencing them to participate in the shared goal at the company. And then more involvement in decision-making. Again, I would say consider carefully what you wish for. Again, I've been having conversations with involvement in decision making, and I know that someone I know on their leadership team, there's somebody who has severe fear of missing out and not being involved in the decision making, but will not own up to the decision. They don't want to be the bad guy making the decision. And so if you want more involvement in decision making, you have to be willing to take the consequences of the decisions that you participate in, whether you make them alone or we have senior associate, senior something, and they're in their 30s. To me, that's overusage of senior. This common title problem in every professional services organization. What do you call people? What is the title? And you're right, it doesn't necessarily equate to senior experience, expertise, or even authority. But this involvement in decision making, if you want to be promoted because you want to be have more involvement in decision making, then be willing to share the consequences of that decision, because not every decision is a good one, a nice one. It's not a lot of fun. Sometimes you have to decide to, oh, I don't know, fire someone or reduce salaries or shut down a business unit or close an office. And you have to be involved in that and be willing to be part of that as well. And people, the other thing is that as you get promoted, you become less and less and less invisible. And people forget that. Is that a really funny story of a woman who was the first head of global real estate for Amazon, said that people were so in tune with what was going on with the leadership team at Amazon at that time, that if they parked in another spot one day, there was an entire conversation about who was going to get fired. You are not invisible. Okay? So if you don't like being visible, think hard about what a promotion is about for you. So this is the internal conversation. Why do I want to be promoted? What am I after? Okay, so what happens is that people want to be promoted and they don't know how to do it. So here's some insights on that. And the first one being, you got to act in a way that's promotable. You got to understand what qualities are seen as promotable, and you got to be the obvious choice. And I heard this repeated practically all day yesterday from the guy who's the former CEO of QFC, the Quality Food Centers. And his comment was, people will come and say, I want to be blah, 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 blah. You got to be the obvious choice. Okay. So the next one is, you got to be good at your job and not your current job. You got to be good at your current job. You need to be good at a bigger job. So you need to know what that bigger job is, what you're aiming for, and what it takes to be good, to prove that you could be good at that one. Prove you can develop yourself. Now, this is a really interesting idea. I had a woman that worked for me, and I'll talk about these in a minute. I had a woman that worked for me a long time ago, and she was always about, when am I going to be promoted? 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 And as her manager, that got to be really wearing. And I didn't have the communication skills that a future manager did, who said, your insistence on being promoted without any other information about it is really wearing. And so show me that you will take feedback and do something with it. And she did. And what happened is she moved up the ranks. That's where she wanted to go. But she also found out about herself that the need to be promoted was connected to something else besides really what she wanted to do. But she rose fairly high in the organization because her manager knew she would keep her word, would take feedback and do something with it, and always look to improve herself as a manager. So that was, that's the different skills. Now, she made lateral moves. Okay. Sometimes it's not just up. Sometimes it's over here to learn a new skill that's going to get you up here. You take on different responsibilities, and sometimes you have to ask to take them, and sometimes you can just kind of grab them, go in and say, oh, I'm just going to do this. Get feedback. Find out what improvement you need. So that feedback of, hey, it's really wearing when you just ask for a promotion with nothing else behind it. So here's what you can do. And she did. And she learned on her own time. The organization that we both worked for was super supportive in doing, management courses and all this kind of stuff. But she did more, and she read, and she did other things and practiced and joined other groups and did leadership positions there. They were industry groups. So, prove you can develop yourself, show people you're willing to learn, to understand what's going on in the organization and where you fit in and how you can do that from where you are today. So be easy to work with. And this does not mean be a doormat. Okay, this isn't what I'm talking about. You want to be a good partner, treat people with respect, even though they may not, even you or other people. Know how you show up, because others need to green light your promotion. You need to be noticed. Be the obvious choice, right? You're going to be noticed about this. And whether you like it or not, there are people that need to green light your promotion. Have strong relationships within the company. And please stop me if you have a question in here. What does this mean? How would this look? Have strong relationships in the company, outside the company. But really, you want to make work friends, even though you say, oh, I got plenty of friends. Make work friends. It's a great place to have them. Get to know other leaders besides the one that you work with, and look for sponsors. And I want to hit the sponsor piece really hard. So there are coaches, there are mentors, and there are sponsors. Now, coaches, so I'm going to use a golf analogy. If you don't play golf, sorry, I don't, but it's a great analogy. So if you think about a coach in golf, a coach would say, Brittany, when you are swinging, when you're driving, you need to keep your head down, your eye on the ball, and follow all the way through and try not to move your hips. A mentor would say, Brittany, when I was on the 18th hole at Augusta, this is what I did to eliminate the noise of the crowd and the noise in my head. You might try it, you might not, but what I'm telling you is you're going to have to figure out how to do that, because it's going to get to you, because the 18th hole is the most stressful. The sponsor would say, Brittany, I got you a spot on the Ryder Cup team. Okay, so there's a real difference there. Now, mentors are great, and you want to have mentors, especially in the leadership team in your company. The sponsor is helping you by looking at positions. So they're talking to the group that they're in, and they're looking at positions, and they're saying, oh, you know what? Carrie would be great for that. You should talk to her. I'm going to go tell her to talk to you. And they are sponsoring you, saying, hey, this is what she's done. This is what she's doing. She's developed herself. She's a great partner. She's across the entire organization. You should really talk to her about this position. So clear on the difference between coach, mentor, sponsor. Okay. So seeing the bigger picture, you think about your efforts are going to help the organization. And so you want to think about where your efforts are best placed for the most help, how your role in your group fits in with the organization, understand the culture that the company is trying to build and the business that you're in, and then act in a way that exemplifies the culture. And, it's interesting, often quoted, I can't remember who it's applied to, Peter Drucker, is that culture eats strategy for lunch. It's absolutely true. You will never get anything done unless you understand the culture and what it does, because the culture will stop stuff in its tracks sometimes if the culture isn't the right way. So understanding it and understanding what the company is trying to build. Are you with it? Does it fit your values? Can you contribute to it? Where can you do it? What efforts do you have as you're building relationships, developing yourself, working with, being a good partner, focusing on being good at a bigger job? Is there a question in the chat?
Yeah, well, Carrie was making a comment, and she said she's worked with quite a few people who want a promotion and who are good at their current job, but they never step up to what the requirements are for a higher level position. They just keep doing the same job they did before.
Yeah, and that's, I want a promotion. Well, be the obvious choice. And so being the obvious choice is you have proven that you would be good at a bigger job, even if you don't have it. So it's kind of like the adage of dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Work for the job you want, focus on the job you want, and be good at both. Show that you can be good at the bigger one and be good at both. So yeah, it's true. I want a promotion because I've been here 10 years. Yay. Yay for you. That makes me so happy. Keep on it. The other piece is, and here's the opposite piece. When I was working for the Department of Transportation in California, I landed on a job that I really liked. I didn't want to be promoted, but I was a resident engineer. I was an associate, and that was the title that you got in the organization, but I was a resident engineer, ran construction projects, loved it, didn't want to do that didn't want to do anything but that for the rest of my life. And people look at me and say, you really need to be promoted. I'm like, oh, no, it takes me away from the work I really love. No, you really need to be promoted. No, it takes me away from the work that I love. No, you really need to be promoted because you're in the way. So part of promotion, and that was the company's promotion philosophy. We just need to move you up so that we can keep moving these people up. It's kind of like, you can promote them around me. I don't care. If if I've got a junior civil engineer that comes up and is my associate or my senior, I don't care. This is what I love to do. So it was really interesting, this whole you're in the way. It was very enlightening for me. It's, there is sometimes, if you work in a company that has a very flat leadership organization, a flat leadership team, there's probably an associate or a senior associate that's in the way. They've been in the way for 15 years. And that happens with small companies. It really does. So understanding the promotional philosophy and the opportunities, it may be that you have to go somewhere else for the promotion. What's really interesting is that sometimes you can go somewhere else for a while and come back to where you were, and you'll come in at a higher position. Happens all the time. So lots of ways to get promoted. All right. So let's talk about be a yes person. And this again is not a doormat. You don't have to agree with everything. When you disagree, do it thoughtfully. Look for opportunities to say yes to that expand scope or your role. So the scope of your role or your role itself. And so say yes to opportunities, which is now focus on proving yourself worthy of a bigger job. It's been a long week.
You're doing great.
Thanks. The other piece is listen. So one of the myths, again, we talk a lot about myths here, is that people who want to be promoted into a leadership position feel they need to dominate the conversation to be shown as a good leader. Actually, really good leaders rarely say anything. They listen. And there are courses out there to learn how to actively listen. And they listen and then they ask questions. They do not talk about me or what I've done. So I don't know if you've ever been in a meeting where a leader has dominated the conversation. It's kind of like, where's the pencil so I can stab myself in the ear with it? So learn to be a good listener, which makes you a really good partner. Okay? When you talk, be purposeful. So everything that you say, people take in a different way. So remember that there are some words that people don't really understand. So strategy is a big one. I call it an Easter bunny word. So everybody, when I say Easter bunny, you have a vision of the Easter bunny in your head, and it's probably very different from mine and everybody else's. Strategy is the same way. So language is everything. Define what you mean by some of these kind of ambiguous and vague words. Your words tell people who you are. So that's really important for you to know that you are what you say a lot. And I'm going to give you the 4 most powerful words in the English language, which will help me to understand. Why will put people on defensive? If you say help me to understand, the first word you said is help, and people love to help. The other piece is that there's another quote out of a book that I absolutely love, which is asking for help is refusing to give up. So what you're doing here is refusing to give up and to understand what they're trying to say to you and what I'm trying to say, what you're trying to say back. So be purposeful and remember that language is everything. This is key. So keep track of your accomplishments. Really, when you're at the end, when you are done with a project or whatever you've been working on, write it down. You aren't going to remember, so no one else will. This is how you blow up the myth of if I keep my head down and work hard, I'll be promoted. Because people will notice. No, you gotta make sure you notice what you've done. And for the next item, this is really going to help. But the key is, what did you do, and what was the benefit to the company from it? And one of the ways to do that could be your own plus delta. And I don't know if you've ever done a plus delta. It's a Lean Six Sigma trick. And it is what was done well, what could we have done better? It's nicer than a post-mortem or a lessons learned, because that's all about what was done wrong. What did we do well? How did it benefit the company? What could we have done better? And how would it benefit the company if we did it better? So that's a really great way to track your accomplishments, because I'm going to guess anybody on this call could think back to the end of 21 and not remember what it is they did. Now, there's a little bit of pandemic blur in there, but this is really true. You get to your annual or mid-year review and you go, what did I do? What do I need to talk about? Yeah, so keep track. Absolutely. And that could just be a notebook. And lastly, if you want to be promoted, ask. Okay. So what does it take to be promoted? Your promotable qualities. Ask for what you want. Be really clear. When I want a promotion, the first slide, when I want a promotion, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what it's about for me. This is where I want to go. And have a business case when the promotion is there. So the business case is your accomplishments, proving that you've been doing a bigger job and taking on a role. I've said yes to expansion opportunities and gotten that all done. So this is the hardest one, asking. And it's because asking isn't a comfortable thing, because you're asking the leader, what does it take to get promoted here? And the leader may not know. And so they're, well, you just kind of stick around and do your job for 11 years and then maybe we'll promote you. Ask for more. Maybe help build it. Yeah. Is there a question? I heard somebody come on unmuted. Is there another question? I saw something pop up in the chat. Okay. You just said, I love that idea. All right. So these are takeaways from here. Whoops. So the takeaways here are: know why you want a promotion. What's going on? Where are you going? If it's just about money, great. Maybe ask for a raise instead of a promotion. There's that too. All right. Know how the company promotes. So if you want a promotion, know that process, know that philosophy. Do you understand the smaller the company, the harder it is, because the organization is going to be really, really flat. So that's where lateral moves come in. Is there something over here on my left that I might want to really do? Or is there a role that can be combined? So all those good things. Track your accomplishments. Absolutely. You are responsible for your career. And so tracking all of this is the biggest thing that you can, and I mean, it's going to go on your resume too. It's great resume fodder, right? Resumes are hard to write and it's hard to talk about yourself, but when you know what you've accomplished, because you go back to a big long list, much easier. Form strong internal relationships. So get to know your leaders, get to know other leaders, watch who's getting promoted or who's about to be promoted, get to know them. Hopefully you have a strong internal relationship with them. Find out, it helps you find out what other people are doing, how they're doing it, what they're thinking about. Maybe you could join a project team that shows that you can focus on a bigger job or do a bigger job. Form the strong internal relationships are really critical, along with mentors and sponsors. And then lastly, ask. Truly ask. Ask for what you want. And I will say that in general, I'm going to generalize here, women have a very hard time asking for a promotion or asking for a raise. And part of that is wound into the thinking that I have to, as a woman, I have to have 100% of everything on the list that they want in a job. Think about this. That is a unicorn. Those job descriptions are unicorns. So unless you found a really good source of rainbow glitter, it's okay. Ask anyway. So, and that, my friends, is the framework. What questions do you have? Happy to answer them, go into a discussion.
I guess just on that last point, and I've heard that as well, women tend to hold themselves to a higher standard or something. I don't know what it is, but do you have advice on overcoming that self-doubt or that I'm not good enough or whatever? Do you have any advice on how to get past that?
Yeah, commonly known as imposter syndrome. I shouldn't be here and they're going to find out I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody suffers from it, not just women. The thing that I often say when people say, oh, I don't qualify, is when was the last time you couldn't figure something out? So asking yourself that question. So the first thing is, and believe me, I've done this too. Okay. So, I'm not, there were times in my 14-year consulting career, I said, I should probably go get a job. And I would look at the job description and say, yeah, no, I don't have that one thing. And it's like, oh, wait. Number one is I've been running my own business for 10 years or whatever it is. So I've pretty much figured out everything. When was the last time I couldn't figure something out? And what if they ask me about it? Well, I'll do some research on it. I'll learn something, maybe. Or I come in and I say, you know what? I don't know that I've ever done that exactly. They may not even ask you. That's the thing, is you might be telling your story. Oh, they're going to ask me everything about everything. Or they're going to, line my resume back up. Again, looking for a unicorn. If they get to 80%, probably really good candidate. And that might be you. But what will most men say to something when they don't qualify? Oh, I'll figure it out. It's okay. I can figure that out. And I don't know what it is about us women who figure we can't figure something out, because we figure stuff out all day. I mean, how many of you have kids? Did you know how to do that when you had them? No. Did you figure it out? Yes. Was it hard? Sure. And again, I'm generalizing, but that to me probably is the biggest self question you can ask. Why am I telling myself this story? And when was the last time I couldn't figure something out? Now, it obviously all depends on the hiring process and manager and all that kind of stuff, but there are so many people that just won't start that process because I can't check every box.
I love that. I have a couple, but we'll just kind of. So I was just curious, how do you go about getting a sponsor? I love the idea of that, but yeah.
So the comment about forming internal relationships and getting to know your leaders is the important piece. Is you want people to see you, want to be visible, right? And you want to be visible for different things. How they were a great team member, or they've expanded their role, or this, and communicating not only with your direct manager, leader, whatever that is in your company, but also communicating with the other leaders. I really would like to be promoted to X. I'm super interested in marketing. I'd really like to be the marketing director, let's say. And will you, can we talk about what I'm doing? Would you give me feedback? So you get to know them, and pretty soon you can say, if the relationship is right, will you sponsor me for this job? Will you I see a job in the company that I really want. Will you talk to the hiring manager about me? What do you need in order to do that? Would you like a list of my accomplishments? Hey, list of accomplishments. What do you think? What feedback do you have? If you're uncomfortable with it, what should I be doing to get you comfortable with going over there and doing that? So having the relationship and then asking. Sometimes be aware, not everybody understands what sponsorship means.
Yeah.
So you might have to explain it.
Exactly. You touched on being visible, which yeah, I'm just curious, what are your recommendations for people who are completely remote, or it's like leaders who are in there and you're not, and you have the option to choose? Is it like, okay, I go in and choose to not be remote so that I am seen, or?
Well, that's one option. Yeah. I mean, there's this remote world is very much based on how do I feel about being in the office, right? And, I'm an extrovert, so I really like if I had an option to be in an office and I knew people were there, I'd go. That's me. And so being visible, touching base with your leader, with your manager, making a standing appointment with them, with the understanding that they may need to, either one of you may need to cancel it, but really being visible to them, talking about, hey, I want to get, and it's pretty deliberate. I want to get feedback on what's going on. I struggle getting to the office, but I think I'm doing an okay job of staying connected with the team, even when they're in the office. So, is that true? Am I making this story up? What can I do to do more contribution? Really more. It's almost like drip marketing. You're talking to the leader and touching them, right? You just touch them. And there's lots of ways to do that. Quick Zoom, 15 minutes, you know, a virtual coffee at 3 p.m. If you're comfortable, go into the office. If they're there, drop by, stop and talk to them. The world is a little bit more difficult, but also you have way more options now. It's not just being in the office and hoping they're there. So, or not in a meeting. So you have a lot more options, although the remote is a little harder. So you have to concentrate a little bit more on that and be much more deliberate than the whole, you know, flyby kind of thing. If you know them well enough and you like them well enough and you have the time, invite them out to lunch or dinner.
Yeah, I love that.
Have the discussion. Hey, I just want to know how I'm doing. I want to go over the list of accomplishments. Whatever that. I want to tell you what I've accomplished, you know, even though you can't see me because I'm in my kitchen all day, wherever you are.
Awesome. Another good one might be level appropriate relationships. Like, you know, you and I have worked on that separately as we went through ownership and the retreat, and it was not something that was really on the forefront of my mind until we worked with you. But
give me a little bit more context around that question.
just as you get advanced and promoted, and you know, maybe you're part of the ownership team, or that's where you aspire, just like each phase that you're promoted, of what's appropriate when you move up in terms of relationships with people.
Yeah. So the downside of promotion, more or less, is, you know, there may be, so there's a couple downsides. One not related to relationships, which is that you may be expected to work more. You know, again, it all depends on the culture of your company. I was chatting with somebody today and she said, yeah, you know, for me, she's the CEO of a company. She said, for me, being a CEO meant you worked 80 hours a week and you had no life and blah, blah, blah. And that's not what I want. And she managed to land a CEO gig that gives her allows her to live the way she wants to live. So, but the relationship, so the promotion piece is hard because the downside in that level appropriate relationship is that you had all these people that you had a relationship with before you got promoted. Now you may have been promoted to their boss, and the relationship is going to change and they aren't going to like it. Yeah. Not everybody cares, but many don't like it. So that comes out in behaviors about, you know, ooh, what are you privy to that I want to know? Come on, tell me. Because you may be privy to confidential information, right? Well, you know, who's going to get fired? Who's having an affair? You know, all these appropriate and non-appropriate questions, right? And believe me, I've heard every one of them. So, you know,
I'm sure.
So there's a couple of things. Number one is, if you're going to be promoted, if you get a promotion and you are managing the group that you came from, I would get a book called The First 90 Days. It's a great book on what to do when you've been promoted above your peers. And so how do you deal with that? What expectations? And it's really about going back and setting expectations and saying, so I know we were peers at one point. Now I have to tell you what to do. And, you know, and now I have to influence your behavior, and you're getting, you know, get your buy-in to get things done. This is how the relationship is going to change, and having that and communicating. Level appropriate relationships, you know, the hard part is that you may not be able to go out drinking with them or doing other things, that your interaction with them is a little bit more separate. And that now you're hanging out with the big kids, right? You know, you're a middle schooler hanging out with the high school seniors. So it's hard, and you know, you have to do a little bit of instinct to understand the culture at your company, where they are, and what people. So people really suffer from FOMO when their peer gets promoted. So you need to be aware of that and deal with it. Was there another question?
Yeah, there's a couple in the chat box. So one of them is, at a certain point in your career, one might think this is as high as you can go in this firm, ? And promotion may not be what you want, and doing well in your current position does you good till you retire ? So I think it's just like a thought.
Yeah. So again, in a smaller firm, you may not be able to go any higher. And maybe if you aspire to something higher, you have to go somewhere else. And that again is the question, why do you want the promotion? What is it about for you? What are you trying to do with your career? And I think the second piece is what I talked about. I didn't want a promotion. I wanted to stay a resident engineer for all of my life. And they said, no, you need to get out of the way. To which, of course, I respond, promote around me. I don't care. Be aware. And this is a conversation we had a lot in a company that I was the COO of, is could we develop a technical track for people that didn't want to be people managers? Because that's really where people get pushed. And you know, the whole adage of promoting people to the pinnacle of their incompetence is really true. So you're a great engineer, so I'm going to have you manage a team. Wait. Hold on. Those two are not necessarily congruent. So if you don't want a promotion, I think the conversation is to have to say, I don't want a promotion, but I really like it here and I really like what I'm doing. How can I not get promoted and still continue on for as long as I feel like I want to? Because again, what's the promotion philosophy in the company? You look at companies like Microsoft, it's manage up or manage out. Ooh. Which is kind of icky, right? You know, and not, Microsoft is not a professional services firm, first of all. Secondly, it's a killer cutthroat kind of culture, and then they're really big. So you can move around a lot in Microsoft or Google or any of the big tech companies. So, you know, if you want to stay where you are till you retire, understand that you could get pigeonholed. If you're okay with that, that's fine. There is, at some point, your salary may not go up, your vacation may not increase, and you just want to be aware of what that is, so you get to make the choice about what you do. Does that answer your question, EL?
I'm going to assume that yes, because that was amazing. It's almost like you've done this before.
Yeah.
Judy made a really awesome comment, and she said, well, when I was mentoring other admins, one of my suggestions to them was to show up, attend brown bags, even if the topic was very technical and they don't have anything to do with that topic. I guess it's getting to seen within the company, kind of like being a good partner, as Jess said.
Yeah, and Judy, you're absolutely show up. You know, show some interest in what the rest of the firm is doing. And who knows, you might go to some technical, you know, topic, brown bag, and go, oh my God, that's so interesting. I want to learn more about it. I want to go do that for that group. And you just don't know what the nuggets are. I mean, when I wanted, so talking about asking, when I wanted to be the director of operations or COO of the company that I work for, I knew what my boss, I knew a lot about what my boss was trying to accomplish and how he looked at operations. And he looked at operations, and that was IT, finance, marketing, admin, all of HR. And I knew how he felt about it. He knew that was not a necessary evil. Okay, so that was the first part. And he respected the people that were in it. And not enough to pay them very well, which was really interesting, but he respected them. And so I came along and I said, hey, you know, I know that you want everything to run, all the trains to run on time, but it's so disparate because all these people report to different people who don't understand what they do and they never talk to each other, blah, blah, blah. Said, I would like to be the director of operations or the COO and pull this all together. And he said, okay, start with IT. I'm kind of like, I don't know a lot about that. But we had a really good IT manager. So I just talked to her. I said, okay, you tell me about IT, I'll tell you about business. And we traded. So, you know, I asked, I said I would learn something. And I found out that IT actually was pretty interesting once we started talking about it. And the fact that we were doing things at that time with Microsoft Outlook or Exchange Server, basically back then, that Microsoft visited once a quarter to find out what we were doing. It was really cool. It's like, hey, we're in there. Should the first person that you go to ask for promotion be your supervisor? Maybe. I think that when you ask for, I think let me caveat this. If you know what the promotion philosophy is, what promotional paths are, and you feel that you have enough to be promoted in a position that's open under your supervisor, yeah, they should be the first person. The first question you want to ask is, what does being promotable look like here? And what is the process by which that happens? If you don't know those, asking for a promotion is a little bit pointless because it's kind of like the woman I talked about who said, I said, promote me, promote me, promote me. It's like, well, why? Where do you want to go? Want more money? Wait a year. Actually, wait 6 months. You'll get more money. You'll get stock. This is at Microsoft. But a promotion, maybe not. Promotions are hard to get. They run, it's really interesting. At Microsoft, they have numbered levels, and I think it starts at 58 or something like that. And you go 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. And then everybody brushes up against the brick wall of 65. Because after 65, you have a certain title, but every one of the people that are trying to get there have the same title, but do different things.
Yeah.
And it depends on what they've had, what experience they've had to get over that brick wall. Many people, it's almost like Normandy. They die on that beach. So what do? They leave Microsoft, they come back and they get hired back in at 67, 68. So it's craziness. So the answer is, it depends. If your supervisor is your first person to ask for a promotion, certainly the first person to say, how does one get promoted here? Again, they may not know. You might have to go higher.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we're mid-year, and so we've talked about kind of the process and steps. So like, I know that the group really loves like tactical, tangible, we're diving into year end and annual reviews are coming up. Can you kind of just walk us through like your recommendations of like the prep leading up to it and like, okay, we're in the review, what do we say?
So I'm going to assume that these things are possible. They may or may not be. So you're going into your end of year review. You're hoping to get a promotion. The first thing is pull out your job description and the job description of the place you want to go. Go see if you can get those. And you I'm going to say it's recommended that you're doing this all year long. You've got your job description and a potential job description or two of where you want to go. And that you are working on all of that. You know what the promotion philosophy is. You know what being promotable is. You know what that means. You've been trying to expand your role. You've been keeping a list of your accomplishments. So you get in that review, and you start talking about. And I would even say maybe you usurp the review and say, I don't want to be reviewed on this job. I want to be reviewed on the possibility of this job. Okay. I want and keeping in mind that feedback is all about the person giving you the feedback. It's not really about you. Okay. So, it's kind of like, I had somebody say to me once in a review, you're not very strategic. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? That's one of those words. Well, you don't plan very well. I'm a project manager. I plan to live in snot out of everything. What are you talking about? Well, you don't take into account X, Y, and Z when you're doing that. Okay, now that's a good piece of feedback. If that's what you mean by strategic, now I got it. Okay. What you're telling me is I didn't talk to you enough about what I was doing. Okay. Gotcha. So job descriptions, list of accomplishments, ask to be reviewed on the job you want instead of the job you have, because hopefully you're really, really damn good at it, which is why you're asking, excuse my French, why you're asking for the promotion. And then the other question is, if I don't get it now, what do I need to do? And understanding it's not a checklist. Okay. I don't need, a lot of people are going check. Oh, okay, you should promote me. Yeah, well, well, you haven't managed people. Okay, but I need to be promoted to manage people. Is there a course that will the company pay for a course for me to take that, or take, or can I manage a team of people that are doing a project, a mixed team? What are the opportunities for me to get that besides being promoted? But you won't promote me because I haven't done it. That's a real catch-22, right? So press again, ask for what you're looking for and be really clear. And if you don't get promoted, don't pout.
That's a good one.
I mean, if you want to walk, you always have the option to talk with your feet. Okay, if you really truly want a big promotion and you can't get it where you are, and you tried and tried and tried, is it the company you want to work for? I will tell you honestly, there's a company in Seattle, and I kept watching that no women got promoted past a certain level. And I watched them for years. And every year, because I was their client at one point, they would send out a card saying, we're happy to announce the board for, the next year. And every year, this is awful. I would call them up, I'd call up the COO and say, you are a bunch of high-fiving white guys. What are you doing? Where are the women? Why can't women get past this level? And finally, I had a conversation with the COO in person, and I asked him, and he went through this whole spiel. And I said, I know 6 women off the top of my head right now that would be great for what you're talking about. They're exactly what you're saying. And one of them's me. I don't want to work for you, but one of them's me. And it's kind of like, I can see why the women talk with their feet. They leave because there's no way to get promoted if you're a female. There was no way. That it has since changed, I'm happy to say. But it was super interesting to watch. So, know your culture, know how people get promoted. Do keep an eye on who's getting promoted and who's not. And there are other things that go on, for instance, and again, I'm going to go back to Microsoft because it's some of the most glaring things. One year, a guy that was a peer of mine got promoted. He was in a different group within our department. He got promoted, and I got hammered for doing the same thing he did, behaving the same way. And it was really interesting. And that was the beginning of the end for me for that particular company to say, you're asking me to be something that you're not asking anybody else to be. And that's not okay. It's not okay with me. So I would not be sitting here talking to you if that hadn't happened. So it was a gift.
So many good nuggets. Everyone, people in the chat room, they love your verbiage of walking with your feet, talk with your feet. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. If you don't like the restaurant you're in, you talk with your feet.
That's true.
If you don't like the service, you leave. Hopefully. You do that with a job too. Now there's a whole lot of other emotional things and survival stuff that goes with that, but less than walking out on a restaurant that you're not happy with. Same thing, talk with your feet.
Amazing.
Anything else? Any other nuggets I can give you?
All the nuggets. You got 5 minutes left, so you can probably get like 300 nuggets in.
I mean, I have to go back to be the obvious choice. Work yourself into being the obvious choice. Know all these things, and you're going to get this deck. So it's going to have all those insights in there. And be the obvious choice. And when you are the obvious choice, ask.
I was curious what you've seen as far as, in this world and just with it changing and just so many people leaving and coming. And what are some things that you've seen or heard of that people have been able to basically like create their own role or redefine what it looks like? I've just heard some really crazy things that people are asking for and that they're having the confidence to ask that they wouldn't have had before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, part of that is it's an employee market, right? So I heard a really interesting statistic in an economic forecast a couple of weeks ago, which was there is half a human available for all of the 11 million jobs that are open. Each job, there's half a human available. So that's the labor market. The unemployment rate here is what, 3.9, 3.8, something disgustingly low. And so people, it's kind of like, a seller's market for houses. I can ask whatever price I want because people are going to pay it. So people are asking for things that were, unheard of before. because the mindset of I go to an office and I work like this has been blown up. Right. So, you know, and employers are coming back and doing things like, okay, so Brittany, you live where you live now, but you want to live and work in Mexico. So I'm going to reduce your salary because the cost of living in Mexico is much lower, just not in some places. You know, you want to go live in, you know, South Dakota. Well, I'm going to pay you South Dakota because rates or wages, because it's a lot less to live in South Dakota. It's like,
Yeah.
that's punishment, right? I moved to South Dakota and I get a decrease in what I get paid. So I think it's less the confidence, having the confidence to ask for these crazy things and having the absolute ability to do that. And so people are asking for as much outrageous stuff as they can possibly do or ask for to see what they actually get.
Mhm.
You know, it's like saying, okay, I want $100,000 raise, and people go, oh, I'll give you 50. You know, I mean, that's a whole lot less than 100,000, but it's pretty big, you know. So think about this. So when I wanted to be the COO, I knew what I wanted to do. And I made a pitch to the leadership team, which were the principals. Now they were all owners. And I said, I would like to do this. This is what the job description looks like. This is what I plan to do. These are the outcomes. And I think it's a principal position. Okay, just kidding. So and they came back and they said, okay, well, we'll make you the COO and you can do this. And you know, we want a commitment from you on how many, you know, how utilized you'll be. We'd like this. And I said, great. But we don't think it's a principal position. And I went in my head, yay. Because I didn't want to be a principal. It meant I had to write them a check. Okay. But as a result, I handled all the money. I signed every check except my own expense check. I had complete autonomy with what I was doing, and I could go do client work, which was really fun, and because my team was really good, and I didn't have to write them a check or be a principal. Excellent.
Perfect.
So, you know, sometimes it's just asking for a lot to get to what you really want.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Well,
Wow.
happy to help. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was informative.
It was. Any last burning questions, anybody? All right. Well, Jess is going to be back with us in August, I believe, right? Jess, August
I
4th.
think so. Yeah.
So we're going to learn about networking and Jess's approach on how to get over the stress and pressure of networking and actually enjoy it. So super excited.
Fun.
You are the queen of the, hopefully you teach us how to get your energy too, because it's quite inspiring.
Awesome. All right.
Lots of people.
Well, thank you so much for the time and allowing me to babble on.
Everybody enjoyed your babbles. They said you did great.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll have a good Thursday. Thank you a million times, Jess.
You're welcome.
About her presentation and the recording after, and also Jess is amazing. So if you guys have any questions when it gets time to reviews or questions,
Please call me.
I've never heard her say no, and I ask a lot. So. All right, guys, thank you.
Right. Take care.